The Zarthian armada hung in the void like a constellation of death, 300 warships strong, their crimson hulls gleaming under the light of distant stars. For 2 centuries, the Zarthian Empire had conquered system after system, their technology unmatched, their warriors undefeated. Today, they had come to claim Earth. Admiral Vexnar stood on the bridge of the flagship Eternal Dominion, his 6 eyes studying the primitive blue world rotating peacefully below. Intelligence reports had been clear. Humanity possessed rudimentary fusion drives and kinetic weapons, toys compared to Zarthian plasma lances and quantum shields. "Begin planetary bombardment," Vexnar commanded, his mandibles clicking with anticipation. Before the weapons officer could respond, every sensor on the bridge screamed in unison. "Admiral," the sensor operator's voice cracked with fear. "Unknown contact. It just appeared at Grid 77 Alpha." Vexnar's eyes snapped to the holographic display. Where empty space had existed milliseconds before, now floated a ship unlike anything in the Empire's databases. It was massive, easily 3 times the size of the Eternal Dominion, and its design defied conventional shipbuilding logic. The hull was matte black, absorbing light rather than reflecting it, covered in geometric patterns that seemed to shift and reconfigure even as he watched. No visible weapons ports, no engine signature, no heat bloom. It simply existed, silent and impossibly still. "Identification," Vexnar demanded. "None, Admiral. The ship isn't in any known registry. Energy readings are inconsistent with known physics." A transmission crackled through the bridge speakers, the voice calm and distinctly human. "Zarthian Fleet, this is Captain Harry Chen of the UHNS Honey's Promise. You have violated sovereign human space. You have 30 seconds to initiate retreat protocols." Vexnar's mandibles spread in what passed for a Zarthian laugh. "One ship threatens my armada. Open fire. Destroy it." 50 warships pivoted simultaneously, their plasma lances charging with lethal energy. The coordinated volley that followed could have vaporized a small moon. The beam struck the Honey's Promise dead center and vanished. Not deflected, not absorbed. They simply ceased to exist the instant they touched the ship's hull, as if reality itself had decided the attack was irrelevant. "Impossible," Vexnar whispered. Harry Chen's voice returned, still eerily calm. "You were warned. Engaging defensive protocols." The black ship didn't move. It didn't fire. For 3 long seconds, nothing happened. Then space itself began to scream. The first thing Vexnar noticed was the gravity fluctuation. His stomach lurched as localized gravitational fields began appearing randomly throughout his fleet. A cruiser on the port flank suddenly crumpled like paper, compressed by forces that shouldn't exist, its hull folding in on itself, until it became a sphere of crushed metal no larger than a shuttlecraft. The crew of 3,000 died before they could even register what was happening. "Evasive maneuvers," Vexnar roared, but his ships were already trying. They couldn't. Invisible force fields had materialized around every vessel simultaneously, perfect spherical cages that prevented any movement. The Zarthian ships hung frozen in space, their engines screaming futilely against constraints that defied the laws of physics. From the Honey's Promise, tendrils of something, not energy, not matter, but something in between, began extending outward. They moved like living things, serpentine and purposeful, reaching toward the trapped warships. When the first tendril touched a Zarthian destroyer, the ship's lights flickered once and died. Every system, every backup, every redundancy, offline in an instant. Through the viewports, Vexnar could see the crew inside, floating helplessly in zero gravity, their emergency suits the only thing keeping them alive. The tendril moved to the next ship, and the next, and the next. "What is this weapon?" Vexnar demanded of no one in particular. His tactical officer was frantically trying every countermeasure in the Zarthian arsenal. Nothing worked. The quantum shields that had protected the Empire for centuries might as well have been tissue paper. "It's not a weapon, Admiral," his science officer said quietly, her voice hollow with disbelief. "It's technology. The readings suggest it's manipulating fundamental forces, quantum entanglement, gravitational fields, possibly even spacetime topology. This is applied physics centuries beyond our understanding." Another transmission. "Captain Chen to Z-Zarthian flagship. I'm disabling your fleet piece by piece. Surrender now and your crews will be spared. Refuse, and I'll be forced to demonstrate our offensive capabilities." Vexnar felt something he hadn't experienced in his 30 years of military service, genuine fear, but pride ran deeper. The Z-Zarthian Empire does not surrender to primitives. All ships, quantum torpedo barrage, fire everything. It was the Empire's most devastating weapon, torpedoes that phased partially out of normal space, making them impossible to intercept. 200 ships fired simultaneously, launching over 1,000 quantum torpedoes at the human vessel. The Honey's promise finally moved. It didn't dodge. It didn't need to. The ship executed a spatial translation, not acceleration, but a discrete quantum jump from one point to another, appearing 50 kilometers from its previous position. The torpedoes, having lost their target lock, began searching for the ship. They never found it. With almost casual precision, the Honey's promise released a pulse of violet energy that expanded outward in a perfect sphere. When it touched the torpedoes, they simply converted to light and dissipated harmlessly, their exotic matter states destabilized and rendered inert. "Offensive capabilities demonstrated," Harry Chen's voice said. There was no satisfaction in his tone, only a weary professionalism. "Final warning, Admiral Vexnar, stand down." How did the human know his name? Vexnar's blood ran cold as he realized the ship had been reading their communications, their databases, probably their thoughts for all he knew. On the main display, another tendril approached the Eternal Dominion. Vexnar watched his tactical display as ship after ship went dark. 300 warships, the pride of the Empire, reduced to floating hulks in less than 5 minutes. Not destroyed, that would have been merciful. Disabled. Humiliated. A message to the Empire that humanity was not prey. The tendril touched his flagship. The lights died. Gravity failed. Emergency systems activated, bathing the bridge in red emergency lighting. Then, impossibly, a figure materialized on his bridge. Not through a door, not via transporter. The person simply faded into existence as if walking through a doorway from another dimension. It was a human male, relatively young by their standards, wearing a simple black uniform with silver insignia. Captain Harry Chen. Behind him materialized another figure, a woman with striking features and an expression of cold calculation. Based on her insignia, this was Commander Honey Vasquez, the ship's second officer. How Vexnar began. "Matter transmission via quantum tunneling," Honey said matter-of-factly. "We've found it useful for boarding operations." Harry stepped forward, his posture relaxed but his eyes hard. "Admiral, your fleet has been neutralized. Your crews are alive but powerless. Now you have a choice. You can return to your empire and tell them that humanity is not to be trifled with, or you can remain stubborn, and I will be forced to take more permanent measures." "You're bluffing," Vexnar hissed, though his voice lacked conviction. "One ship cannot." "One ship just did," Honey interrupted. "And the Honey's promise isn't even our most advanced vessel. It's a reconnaissance frigate." The words hit Vexnar like a physical blow. A reconnaissance frigate. This nightmare was a scout ship. Harry's expression softened slightly. "We've been watching the galaxy for a long time, Admiral, waiting, learning. We knew expansion beyond our borders would eventually bring us into contact with aggressive species, so we prepared. While you conquered planets, we conquered physics itself." Vexnar looked at his crew, frozen in shock and fear. He thought of his empire, the billions who believed in their supremacy. And he thought of what would happen if he returned with news of this defeat, or worse, if he didn't return at all. "What are your terms?" he asked quietly. "Simple," Harry said. "Retreat beyond the demarcation line we're transmitting to your navigation systems. That zone is now humanity's protected space. Violate it again, and we won't disable your ships. We'll erase them from existence. Tell your empire that Earth is off limits. Tell them that humanity has graduated from prey to predator." Honey tapped a device on her wrist, and power began returning to the Zarthian ships, though weapons systems remained locked out. "You have 6 hours to leave this system," she said. "After that, we'll consider your presence an act of war." Both humans faded from existence as mysteriously as they'd appeared. 3 days later, Admiral Vexnar stood before the Zarthian High Council, recounting his defeat. The counselors listened in stunned silence. "You're certain of this assessment?" the eldest counselor asked. "That they intentionally held back?" "Positive, counselor. The human captain could have destroyed us in seconds. Instead, he gave us mercy." Vexnar paused, and a warning. The council chamber fell silent. For the first time in their history, the Zarthian Empire had encountered a superior force. "What do you recommend, Admiral?" Vexnar thought of that black ship, of technology that made their greatest achievements look like stone tools, of a species that had hidden in plain sight, letting the galaxy think them weak while they mastered sciences the Empire couldn't begin to comprehend. "We stay away from human space," he said firmly, "far away, and we pray they never decide to expand their borders." The Council agreed unanimously. Across the galaxy, other civilizations that had been eyeing Earth with predatory interest received copies of Vexnar's report. The message was clear. Humanity was no longer hiding. The mysterious warship Honey's Promise and its crew had announced to the cosmos that Earth's children had grown up. And they were terrifying,